and AI strategies, UN Industrial Development Organization. And the Vice President, Marco Xu, the Vice President of Huawei CEE Nordic, the members of the European Parliament, State Secretaries, distinguished guests. Good morning, and thank you very much for being with us today.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. This is Huawei's annual flagship event today in Hungary. We used to say our country is famous for its invention, like the theory of digital computing by János Neumann, or the holography by Dennis Gabor, or the world-famous magic cube by Ernő Rubik. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. So today we are following their way, and we will discuss innovations, biodiversity, talents cultivation, innovative smart solutions, and digital energy transformation.
These are very important topics nowadays. Have you ever played with this magic cube, the Rubik cube? Do you know the thing? I mean, the inventor, actually, Ernő Rubik, will be here today, according to our plans. So first of all, I would like to invite Marco Xu, Vice President, Director of Public Affairs and Communication, Huawei Technologies, Central, Eastern and Nordic Europe, to greet the attendees and officially open our conference.
Dear Mr. Peter Siatu, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Trade, Mr. István Uhai, Vice Chair of the Committee on Transportation and Tourism of European Parliament, and Mr. Marco Camilla, Chief Division of Digital Transformation and AI Strategy of UNIDO, dear Secretary of State, Member of the European Parliament, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It's my great honor to welcome you here today. I'm pleased to see so many new and old friends at this event. Today marks the 10th year of Huawei holding this European Innovation Day. The theme of this year is Innovate Diversity Europe. We decided to hold it in the beautiful city of Budapest, where diversity is the most striking feature apparent in the geography and the rich cultural heritages. Diversity of thought, experience and background drive innovation and creativity. Huawei's development over the past 30 years has been the result of contribution made by talent all over the world and continuous investment in the research and development. At today's summit, we will discuss on three main topics: green energy transition of Europe, innovate for a smart Europe, ICT talent development, and biodiversity conservation. First of all, the ongoing energy crisis in Europe has further highlighted the importance of the diversification of energy, which is a process that can no longer be postponed. The key solution to today's crisis and to get on track for the net zero emission is to dramatically scaling up of renewable energy, such as solar power, and also improve the energy efficiency through the innovative solutions. Secondly, a smart Europe should be first a digital and connected Europe. Technologies like 5G, cloud computing, and AI are developing together with the digitalization of industries. In Hungary, we helped our customers deploy the Europe's first 5G railway port and first 5G smart factory. Moving forward, Huawei is committed to collaboration with partners and customers to accelerate the digital transformation in Europe for its 2030 digital strategy goal. At last, we will promote the social value through technologies and the cultivation ICT talent. Technology is good and should be used for good. You will hear several latest achievements of our partnership with universities, NGOs, and startups. From projects like using AI to protect the biodiversity, forest fire detection program, using AI to based on the AI and the 5G technologies. Also, flood management research is supported by our smart PV solutions, and also the Seed Future scholarship programs. I also like to invite you to visit our 5G mobile private network roadshow after this event, right in front of the event. You will have the opportunity to explore different applications and user cases for 5G technologies in areas such as logistics, automobile, ports, and mining, etc. In the end, I would like to thank you again for coming and supporting us along the way. I hope this summit inspire a fruitful discussion in further cooperation for a digital and green Europe. Together, we will achieve more. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Su. Now I'd like to ask Mr. István Újhelyi, member of the European Parliament, Vice Chair of the Committee on Transport and Tourism, to take the stage. He will deliver his speech in Hungarian, so please use your translation device if you need. Tisztelettel kérem Újhelyi Istvánt, hogy tartsa meg a beszédét.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, Huawei, good morning, Budapest. I'm István Újhelyi, and it is my honor to be together with you today. Let me thank to the European Office of Huawei to be here today with you. I would like to welcome Mr. Marco Su for Central and Eastern Europe of Huawei head, and the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Peter Szijjártó, and my fellow members of the European Parliament. You have to know that I was together with you in 2005 when the Huawei arrived to Hungary. I was together with you in 2009 when you established the logistics center here in Hungary. And I'm here today together with you because I think for Hungary and for Europe, it's a very, very important day to speak about innovation and to speak about cooperation between the Huawei and between our beautiful nation. Ladies and gentlemen, as the first Vice Chair of the European Parliament's Transport and Tourism Committee, I'm primarily responsible for tourism policy. But I have dealt with a number of legislation that deal with the automation of transport and digital transition. As the rapporteur of the CITS parliamentary report, the task before the decision makers was clear: prepare the country and Europe in a broader sense for the challenges of the coming years in order to implement the digital transition as effectively as possible. It is an indisputable fact that among the challenges of the decades ahead, one of the most important steps is how to implement the twin transition strategy of the European Union institutions. It is the digital and green transition that is connected and linked together in its many elements and have a mutual influence on each other. The dramatic changing of the climate with unprecedented dynamics is now threatening both the European Union and our world as a whole with existential danger. Urgent action is needed in order to put the European Union on a modern, digital, resource-efficient and competitive foundation. This should provide an adequate response to the challenges of the 21st century by creating a new economic and development model. The basis of this is the twin transition, which clearly stands out among the 1924 priorities of the European Commission. On the one hand, through the European Green Deal, and on the other hand, through the approach of how to be the Europe prepared to the digital age. During the past 3 years, we have crossed many previously unimaginable red lines, despite the fact that we have achieved truly defining milestones at the EU level. These include and you have to know it. Maybe it's boring, but it will be very important for the future for Hungary, future for the European Union, and for future for the Huawei. The European Union's 2050 net climate neutrality in binding legislation through the European Climate Decree. The so-called Fit for 55 towards 55 package for 2030, which established the 2050 goals. The next one is the European legislation on chips, the DMA and the DSA, which is the Digital Market and Digital Service Acts, the regulation on artificial intelligence, and the European data strategy. As the direction and objectives have now been clearly defined, EU-level legislation and strategies are being created one after the other. At the same time, there is a crucial element which is particularly important to me and is discussed, unfortunately, less often and with less emphasis. I'm convinced that the basic condition for the success and thus having the final achievement of the climate and digital goals set at the EU level is that the transition of the decades ahead, inducing fundamental changes, should be fair. So, which is the most important thing for me, justice and equality is crucial. I believe it is about every citizen is being a part of the transition. Again, every citizen should be part of the transition. It is clear that success cannot result if only the top decile of European societies have the chance to take advantage of the opportunities provided by the digital and green transition and actively contribute to our common goals. The transition must have the broadest possible social foundations, and the main preposition for this is to allocate significant resources to education and innovation. Furthermore, making the technology widely available is to reduce and then close the digital divide, and to ensure that as many members of our society as possible have the right skills. In addition to all of this, the real question is how to connect, for example, the rural areas and maintain the full network coverage in remote world. It is primary not only in the field of automation, but also in the question of immediate access to information. Last but not least, I would like to highlight the social and government aspect. In addition to the environmental protection and the digital aspects, the success of the companies and the double transition process undertaken by the European Commission and the Member States must be complemented by the effective consideration of social aspects and the representation of effective governance. This is a higher level of social responsibility, the so-called ESG strategy. Yes, environment, social, and governance strategy. It's not only about sustainability. In the European Union, we talk a lot about sustainability. It's a fashion. You can't organize any kinds of event without sustainability. It mustn't to have a speech without using sustainability, but I think the future is more. It's also about the society and also about the governance. So that's why, for example, as a special ambassador of the UN World Tourism Organization, we established one academic center, and we would like to teach the ESG strategy, I hope together with the Huawei. Finally, the digital, environmental, and social transition are like learning a new language. They require a new method of thinking and a different way of how to look at the world. Achieving this, the latest technology of computers, the credible and well-trained professionals who could work on these machines are needed. And of course, a well-paid, calm, and well-prepared, dedicated group of teachers are also necessary. The basic knowledge of informatics and engineering sciences is based on the teachers' passionate work in primary and secondary education on real subjects. If we do not give attention to them, do not ensure the financial conditions for a career path for them, we will fall. As a father of 6 children and as a politician, I tell you, we must put education on the spot, in the center of our politics. That's why I'm here, and that's why I will be together with you the next years. Thank you, Huawei. Thank you so much.
Köszönjük szépen Újhelyi Istvánnak. Thank you very much, Mr. Újhelyi. And now I would like to ask to join me on the stage our next keynote speaker. He's from the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, Chief of Division of Digital Transformation and AI Strategies. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Marco Camilla.
Minister of Foreign Affairs and Trade, Mr. István Ujhelyi, Vice Chair of the Committee of Transport and Tourism and member of the European Parliament, Mr. Marco Zhu, and Jeff Wang, Senior Managers from Huawei Technologies. So it's a great pleasure to be here. So ladies and gentlemen, I want to convey regards from UNIDO's Director General, Mr. Gerd Müller. He was in Hungary in April, meeting senior officers and discussing activities with the government of Hungary. Director General Müller has a motto for UNIDO's member states that is progress by innovation. So innovation is essential for growth and development. So I want to refer to some of the UNIDO's mandates. So we support productive activities, and productive activities are manufacturing, services, and the digital economy. 3 decades ago, experts on development used to say that only manufacturing was important. Today, productive activities are integrated. And for example, artificial intelligence is leading the way for production and automation. AI is also improving logistics, supply chain, and optimizing production platforms, so therefore supporting economic integration and growth. So we are seeing new developments in digital twinning as well, a technology that provides a real-time representation of digital processes with simulations, integration, testing, monitoring, and maintenance. So the traditional taxonomy that divides manufacturing, services, and the digital economy are disappearing. Those are vanishing. UNIDO works with governments to design macro policies on innovation and technologies. We also work with private sector, emphasizing small and medium enterprises to support productive transformation. So today, as we are gathering in Budapest, I want to highlight the leadership of the Hungarian government on innovation policies and the high quality of its engineers. I was recently in the Western Balkan region, and countries are proposing to work closely with Hungary to exchange knowledge. Hungary also has a dynamic and vibrant entrepreneurship ecosystem, consolidating startups and accelerators with funding and global networks. But innovation requires private sector, and in this regard, small and medium enterprises need to integrate their activities with regional and global corporations. So I want to inform that UNIDO is preparing an initiative called Global Innovation Award to accelerate innovations. And those innovations are in the areas of energy efficiency, agribusiness with food security, and digital transformation with artificial intelligence. So we appreciate the support that Huawei is providing to this major UNIDO initiative with our member states. So it's again a great pleasure for UNIDO to be part of the Huawei European Innovation Day. I'm looking forward to have a great dialogue with all of you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kamiya. And now Mr. Jeff Wang, the President of Public Affairs and Communication of Huawei Technologies, will be with us online. So let's watch his video.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm Jeff Wang, President of Huawei Public Affairs and Communication Department. Thank you for attending the European Innovation Day in Budapest. Budapest is an amazing city that connects the East and the West. I used to work in Europe for around 10 years. Whenever I visit Budapest, I was deeply impressed by the wonderful architecture and beautiful views along the Duna River. Today, we are here as we share one vision, innovating for a diverse Europe. Hungary is the hometown to many great people, from famous musician Franz Liszt to the genius scientist John von Neumann. It is von Neumann's pioneering contributions to modern computers that have driven the information revolution of the past half-century. Today, we are going to discuss how to contribute to Europe's future by promoting digital transformation, green energy, biodiversity conservation, and digital talent cultivation. First, we firmly believe we can lead innovation for the future through continuous investments in R&D. According to 2021 EU Industry R&D Investment Scoreboard, Huawei is the world's second highest investor in R&D. This helps us continuously develop innovative products and solutions to enable digital transformation of various industries. Currently, Huawei maintained over 160 wireless networks in Europe that connect over 500 million people. In Hungary, our largest supply center outside China is providing product and logistics services to more than 50 countries. Moreover, with partners, we recently built the country's first 5G smart factory. There, automatic warehousing and logistics systems have greatly improved operating efficiency. Second, Huawei is committed to the vision of the Green Europe. Recently, soaring energy prices have been a burden on the region. Accelerating the green transformation of energy is an important way to overcome this challenge, as well as to achieve the EU's 2050 carbon neutrality goal. Huawei wants to play an active role in this transition towards green energy. We have been working to promote the development of clean energy and drive the digitalization of traditional energy. So far, we have helped customers generated over 480 billion kilowatt hours of green power and save 14 billion kilowatt hour of electricity. This is equivalent to reduce 230 million tons of carbon emissions. Talent is crucial for achieving the goal mentioned above. However, it has been noted that more than 37% of workers in EU lack basic digital skills. Huawei has taken many initiatives to cultivate talent, such as Seeds for the Future, ICT Academy, and developer trainings. Last year, we committed to cultivate 500,000 ICT professionals across Europe over the next 5 years, backed by investments of 35 million euro. Meanwhile, we have established 147 ICT academies and numerous scholarships to cultivate more talent for the region. Beyond these efforts, we all must work together to develop a sustainable talent ecosystem for long-term development. We know the process of innovation is full of uncertainty, as all paths to the future. But one thing is certain: innovation will be crucial to realize our sustainable future. I look forward to working with all of you to create a smarter, greener, and sustainable Europe. Thank you.
That was the speech of Mr. Jeff Wang. We will have some more online speeches during our event today because we all love this kind of online meetings, don't we? Anyway, Mr. Wang just mentioned our beautiful river, Danube, we name it, or we call it Duna, which splits the two sides of our beautiful city, Buda and Pest. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the lowest water level we ever experienced in the case of this fantastic river. So climate change is happening, but I strongly believe that digital technologies could be crucial in finding the solutions for this happening climate change. So thank you very much. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to ask Mr. Péter Szijjártó, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Trade, Hungary, to present his ceremonial speech. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Péter Szijjártó.
Good morning to all of you. I appreciate the invitation of our friends in Huawei, and you all have praised Budapest and the Hungarians, so in order to prove how a unique nation we are, allow me to use my mother tongue in order to prove to you that we have a very special language which no one understands. It's a secret code among us, so be aware of that.
Szeretjük és büszkék vagyunk rá, és a tolmácsoknak pedig sok sikert kívánok. Megpróbálok lassan beszélni.
Jó napot kívánok, tisztelettel köszöntöm Önöket. Köszönöm a meghívást a Huawei-es barátoknak és kollégáknak. Most itt találkozunk ebben a gyönyörű városban, ebben a csodaszép országban, miközben tágabb hazánk Európa
in a broader land in Europe, we face an economic recession. We are rushing towards this recession, and we are also facing a crisis, a security crisis, and we experience it in both physical and supply aspects as well. And if we look back at the last 2 or 3 years, then this is not the first occasion where we face crisis, because the world pandemic, after the pandemic, we can say that the war turned the world politics, economics upside down. If we look back at the history of economics, I'm sure that we cannot remember times where in the period of 2 or 3 years, the world economy has been turned upside down twice in a matter of seconds. What's the task and what are the obligations of a government from economic perspective? Our task is to ensure that Hungary is not involved in the recession. And as a local exemption, we need to remain on the path of economic development. If this is the task, then of course you have the right to ask, how are we going to manage this task? It is easy to speak about it than to actually remain effective. There's only one way to avoid a recession and to keep the economic development. We need to keep providing investments that provide jobs in Hungary, and we are also capable of increasing the level of economic situation in Hungary. I'm happy to say that the Chinese companies are partners in these undertakings. Chinese companies, they provide jobs for Hungarian people together with their companies and their investments in Hungary, and they also present the state-of-art technologies in our country. Chinese companies and their investments, they support Hungary and Hungarian economy to maintain our growth in the near future. Dear ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, the world economy and its direction and its main direction in the last couple of years have been changed. 15 years ago, 80% of all the investments in the world were financed by the Western capital and 20% from the Eastern capital. And now we see that 70% is backed by Western companies and by Eastern companies, and 30% are being financed by Western companies and the Western part of the world. And in the framework of these changes, we also see that the most modern technology is being backed up. Economic support and investment of the Chinese companies that gain a bigger share of the market in the world. And through their investment, they can increase their presence in most of the regions of the world. Our interest, Hungary's interest in this environment is to attract more Chinese investments in our country. Because Chinese, if those Chinese investments do not come to Hungary, they go to other countries, and they're going to provide jobs, investments, and financial stability in other parts of the world. So, without any exaggeration, I can proudly say that Hungary in the last couple of years have achieved serious results in attracting investments from China. A while ago, we could announce one of the biggest investments in Hungary's history in the field of production of electric cars, which is the CATL company's investment that is opening its biggest factory in Europe in the field of production of batteries. And it is one of the most highlighted investments in this region of Europe. And I can proudly say that the R&D centers of Huawei here in Budapest, and also the biggest logistical center in Europe, are also being based here in Hungary that give us further benefits for the country. 12 years ago, or maybe more, we've initiated our politics of Eastern openness and openings. And now we are being able to witness the fruit of our work. In 2020 and also this year, we see that China is the country that delivers most investments here in Hungary. I would also like to emphasize that here in Hungary, we are not going to discriminate any investing company because of their country of origin. There's only one thing that matters. These companies, they need to respect our legislation.
ezt az álláspontunkat
This is
képviseljük
our
akkor is,
position, and
amikor
this is the
komoly
position we
nemzetközi
represent
nyomás helyeződik
when
ránk azért
we
például,
face
hogy a
international
Huawei
pressure
terjeszkedését, sőt jelenlétét se engedjük itt Magyarországon.
with regard to not
Számunkra
allowing
azonban büszkeség a Huawei
the presence of
magyarországi
Huawei here in
beruházása.
Hungary. We are proud
Büszkeség, hogy
to
a Huawei
be the country where Huawei
bízik a magyar tehetségekben,
carries out their
bízik a magyar
investments.
emberekben,
And we are
bízik a
happy that
magyar
Huawei trusts in our
oktatási
talent,
rendszerben.
trusts in our
Arról már
people,
nem is
and
beszélve,
trusts in
hogy a
our
magyarországi
education system.
legnagyobb megrendeléseit is nyugat-európai vállalatoktól
And
kapja.
we
Ennyit
are
a
happy to say
képmutatásról.
that this company receives
Tisztelt Hölgyeim és
the
Uraim, a
biggest
Huawei immáron
requests
több mint
and
15
sales
éve
from
van
Western
jelen Magyarországon.
companies. So Huawei has
Az
been
első
present
kínai vállalat,
here in
amellyel
Hungary for quite
stratégiai
some time,
megállapodást kötött a magyar
and
kormány.
we are happy that this
Számomra
is the
személyes
company with
megtiszteltetés,
whom
hogy néhány hónap
we
hiány,
signed a
10 évvel
strategic
ezelőtt
partnership
én
agreement,
magam írhattam alá
and
Huawei
I'm happy to
akkori
say that
magyarországi
it was me
vezetőivel
back at the
ezt a
time who
szerződést.
signed this strategic agreement.
Megtiszteltetés számunkra, hogy több mint 2
It's
éve
an
Budapesten
honor for
működtetik
us
a
that
kutatásfejlesztési
for 2
központjukat
years
és a Kínán kívüli
they've been
legnagyobb logisztikai
delivering
központjukat
great work and great
Diatorban.
performance in their R&D
Tisztelt Hölgyeim és
center
Uraim, a
in
Huawei és
Diatorbács. Dear ladies and gentlemen, Huawei
beruházása,
and
illetve
Huawei's investments
együttműködése
here in Hungary and
mutatja
our
világosan
partnership
Magyarország nyitottságát,
with this company shows and
Magyarország
reflects
nyitottságát az
our
innovációra,
openness,
az új
openness
gondolatokra,
towards
az
innovation, towards
egyenrangú
new
és
thoughts,
kölcsönös
and
tiszteleten
towards
alapuló
equal
párbeszédre,
dialogue that's
értékteremtő
based
munkára,
on mutual
és azon
respect.
vállalatokra, amelyek ilyen
That
típusú
is
beruházásokat
true
hoznak
to
Magyarországra.
all companies that
elmúlt
bring
időszakban
their investments to
sok
Hungary.
És
And
nagy
the
versenyben vettünk részt kutatásfejlesztési
last
beruházásokért,
couple of
és
years
a
we've
magyarországi
put an
adókörnyezet,
emphasis on
szabályozási
bringing
környezet és
new
támogatási
investments into
rendszer
Hungary. Therefore, we
változtatásaival, valamint
created
a magyar felsőoktatás
a beneficial
reformjával
environment, taxation,
sokat tettünk annak
and legislative
érdekében,
environment for the
hogy
Hungary
bebizonyítsuk,
in many fields,
hogy a magas hozzáadott
including
értéket
in the fields of
képviselő
education,
kutatásfejlesztési
because
beruházásoknak
we're
legjobb
interested
helye Európában
in
éppen itt
being
van
the base
Magyarországon. A
and
tavalyi
serve as a
esztendőben
base
már
for
megközelítette
investments of high
az
technology.
1000 milliárd
Last year,
forintot a kutatásfejlesztésre fordított
1,000
költségvetési források
billion
összege.
forints was
Több mint
the amount of
3600
R&D activities in Hungary. There are more than
és több mint
600
90
research facilities
kutatásfejlesztéssel.
involving the work and
Tisztelt Hölgyeim és Uraim, a Huawei és
input
Magyarország
of many
együttműködése
specialists.
tehát
Dear
szerződés
ladies
szerint
and
is
gentlemen,
egy
based on our agreements,
együttműködés.
Hungary and Huawei, they
stratégiai
maintain a
együttműködés
strategic
rendkívül komoly
partnership
eredményeket
which
az
brings
elmúlt
serious
években.
results.
Ebből a stratégiai együttműködésből
And
mindkét fél nagyon sokat
it is
profitált.
mutually beneficial
Magyarország
for both
kormányának
parties.
részéről.
And
Arról szeretném biztosítani
on behalf
önöket,
of the
hogy
Hungarian government, I would
Magyarország
like to
jövőben is
ensure
készen
you
áll
that Hungary
ennek az
in the future
együttműködésnek a
is ready to
folytatására.
continue this
Köszönöm
partnership and
a Huawei
cooperation.
vezetőinek,
I'd like to
hogy
thank
mindig is bíztak a
the
magyar fiatalokban, a magyar
leaders of Huawei
tehetségekben,
for their
a
trust
magyar
in
mérnökökben, a
our
magyar
youth, in
kutatókban,
our
a magyar
engineers, in our
munkásokban.
research
Köszönöm
fellows.
önöknek,
Thank
hogy
you
meg tudták győzni a Huawei központi
for
főnökeit, hogy ezeknek a
convincing
beruházásoknak a legjobb helyük
the
éppen itt
leaders
van
of your
Magyarországon.
company to
És köszönöm
invest
annak a
here
több
in
száz
Hungary. And I
magyar
would also
mérnöknek,
like to thank for
kutatónak
those
és
hundreds of
akik
engineers,
a Huawei
researchers and
kötelékében
employees
dolgoznak,
who work in the
teljesítményükkel
company of
folyamatosan
Huawei,
meg tudták
and
győzni
with
a
their
vezetőiket
performance
arról,
they can
hogy érdemes még
persuade
többet
the leaders
fejleszteni,
Huawei
beruházni
to invest
itt
further
Magyarországon.
in
Mai
Hungary.
konferenciához és a
I
jövőbeli
wish you
magyarországi
good luck
globális
and success
célkitűzéseik
to
eléréséhez
this
pedig
conference
sok
and to
sikert
your
kívánok
future
önöknek. Köszönöm szépen.
activities here in Hungary. Thank you very much for your attention. Köszönjük szépen, miniszter úr. Thank you, Mr. Szijjártó. And there is another member of the European Parliament in the hall. I kindly ask Ms. Edina Tóth. She is a member of the Committee on the Environment, Public Health and Food Safety to take the stage and deliver her thoughts.
Minister, Vice President, my colleagues from the European Parliament, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for the invitation for Huawei to this Innovation Day, which is taking place in my beautiful home city, Budapest. It's a great pleasure to be here, and I warmly welcome everyone who has taken the time to attend this timely and important event. We all know that digital technologies are transforming the world at an unprecedented speed, shaping our industry and global market. We are here today to discuss how these technologies and digitalization in general can contribute to green and energy transition, and I believe that it is absolutely vital that these things don't only stay in Brussels. Up until now, the COVID-19 pandemic, there was a strong and long-held belief that in our globalized world, supply chains were unshakable, and that there was no such thing as shortages. This credo was shattered by the new reality, what we now have to face with. We are at a tipping point of exponential technological advancement. And in the coming years, the Internet of Things will consist of trillion sensors, all generating and sharing data. Machine learning and artificial intelligence are no longer science fiction. They are already automating and optimizing operations. Digital technologies are driving cost efficiency, providing new revenue opportunities, and changing business models. But the digital transformation is about more than technology. It is also a cultural change about people and agile ways of working. Think about the current shortage of semiconductors, chips, concrete consequences for our economy and for employment. And I'm also thinking of our dependencies on raw materials that are critical for the transition of industry, such as lithium, which is so vital for the production of electric batteries. When it comes to chips, it is widely known that the semiconductor industry is global in scope, with nearly 2/3 of the chips manufactured in Asia, particularly China. For fostering Europe's competitiveness in this sector, the European Commission presented the so-called CHIPS Act, which proposes a comprehensive set of measures to ensure the EU's security of supply, resilience, and technological leadership in the semiconductor technologies and applications. And I believe that the semiconductor industry is only one of the many examples which invokes a close cooperation with our partners outside of the EU. And with regard to batteries, Hungary is a great example for reinforcing our relation with the most important and dynamically developing player in the world economy. With an investment of 7.3 billion euros, the global leader in the battery market, the Chinese CATL, what Minister Szijjártó mentioned as well, is building a factory in Debrecen. And in my opinion, the Hungarian approach is one of the best practices for Europe. Ladies and gentlemen, we all experience that green transition and the protection of the environment have become more than ever a pressing issue. At the same time, the energy crisis has quickly become an everyday topic, not only in the public sphere, but also in the citizen's home. We need to focus on renewable, green, and cost-effective solutions to provide safe and sustainable energy to consumers with fair conditions. And therefore, I believe that switching to renewable and other sustainable energy sources has never been more important. We see it's all about flexibility and reliability. And to drive the uptake of new technologies in Europe and ultimately hit our 2050 targets for carbon neutrality, we also need to strengthen policy collaboration between green and digital. And this also means promoting partnerships in Europe's most energy-intensive sectors. And therefore, the EU must boost connectivity targets to accelerate infrastructure development. And therefore, digitalization of the energy sector is crucial to meet the EU climate goals. And the message from the European voters is clear and unambiguous. They want real action to combat climate change, whilst appropriate measures for tackling the high energy prices. And therefore, I believe that decisive action is needed as soon as possible. And as I mentioned before, Europe needs to invest in innovation and research, and we need to transform our economy as well. However, we must realize that the realization of the European Green Deal is going, unfortunately, in the wrong direction. I'm afraid that the EU's climate and energy policy will further deepen Europe's competitive disadvantage and prevent companies from focusing on innovation, which is necessary for a proper green transition. And with the so-called Fit for 55 package, EU climate policy will affect all EU citizens directly. The climate policy cannot be successful if the EU imposes a disproportionate burden on our citizens and the businesses. And it is therefore important that we do everything to keep the overhead expenses of the families low. And as we see that the challenges are quite great, but as Jean Monnet said, we only accept change when it's necessary, and we only see the necessity in the crisis. And I think this is our collective responsibility. And once again, I would like to thank you for the kind invitation. I'm looking forward for a fruitful discussion and reveal new ideas to develop a more digital, sustainable, and greener future. Thank you for the attention.
Thank you very much. It's always good to watch things from the different aspect. I mean, it's not different. We are part of the European Union, and we are our location, Hungary's location, is very special and very unique in terms of geographical and political decisions. So thank you very much highlighting this one. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to dive deep into our topics. We have several topics to discuss today. There will be panel discussions, there will be keynote speeches, there will be launching projects or signing cooperations on this very stage today on the Huawei Innovation Day 2022. Our first topic is the digital energy transformation. Our first speaker is the Deputy State Secretary responsible for Energy, Ministry of Technology and Industry. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mark Alföldi Borús on stage.
Good morning to all of you. Also a warm welcome from the Ministry for Technology and Industry. My name is Mark Alföldi Borús, and yes, the technology works and allows us to enjoy some smart slides during the speech. Please allow me also to continue in Hungarian. All of the slides will be on English, so I guess it will be a support for the translator colleagues as well. A következő pár percben dióhéjban beszeretném mutatni azt, hogy honnan indultunk, hol tartunk, és mi a célunk és a jövőképünk a magyar energiastratégia és energiapolitikának az alakítása kapcsán. Egy olyan környezetben élünk, amikor bármennyire is megalapozott volt Az ezt
much
megelőzően
well-founded.
2 évvel megalkotott energiastratégia szükségszerű, hogy
Energy strategy established 2 years ago was well-founded and established. We need to reassess
változásokra is megfelelően tud reagálni.
the
Az
apt
energiastratégiánknak és
reactions to the
klímastratégiánknak
upcoming
2 fő célja
changes.
van.
There are 2 major
Törvényel
objectives to the
is
climatic strategy,
megerősítésre
and
kerültek
this has
ezen
been
célok.
supported and
Nagyon
strengthened
erős
by
emisszió,
laws as well.
üvegházhatási
Very
gáz
intense
kibocsátás
emission
csökkentési
reduction
célunk
targets
van, és nagyon komoly energia céljaink is
very
vannak.
serious energy
Az
targets we also
üvegházhatási
have.
gáz kibocsátás
As for
kapcsán 2030-ra, 2030-ra 40%-os
emission
csökkentést vállaltunk
2030, we have committed to 40%
2050-re pedig a teljes
reduction on the basis of
klímasemlegesség a magyar országgyűlés
2020,
által is elfogadott
and
cél.
by 2030, 21% ratio is the reduction in terms of actually in the increase of ratio of renewable energy.
És 2030-at követően pedig az a vállalás, hogy amennyiben az energiafelhasználás növekedne,
So
akkor
again,
a
in
növekmény
case
mindenképpen már megújuló
energy
energiából
use is
történhessen.
growing,
Eddigi
we have to
eredményeink
apply
a
renewable energy sources by,
kibocsátás csökkentés kapcsán
for sure.
a 34%-os
So for the time being,
csökkentés.
we've managed to lower the
Magyarország törekvései
emission
és
by
a bevezetett intézkedések
4%. As for the actions that we have undertaken, so far those are not only unique and tangible in the Hungarian context, but also internationally speaking, we are
Net Zero Readiness Indexe, azaz
on the
az a
international
kimutatás, hogy
KPMG's
mely
Net
ország
Zero Index
milyen készültségben
is
áll
tale-telling
a
in
net
terms
zero
of what is the readiness stage
céljának az elérése
of each one of the
tekintetében.
countries in terms of net
Magyarország
zero.
előkerült 13.
Hungary is
helyet
number
ért
13,
el
which is a
a
noble
tavalyi
ranking.
kutatásban.
That was the last year's
Többek között
ranking
az
actually.
energetikai, a pénzügyi,
Energetics,
finanszírozási szektorban
financial
és a közlekedési,
sector-wise,
területeken
as well as the
megalkotott és
transportation
bevezetett intézkedéseknek
and
köszönhetően.
energy sector. These sectors have all witnessed or very
Jó ütemben haladunk
positive
tehát az üvegházhatási
actions. So
gázkibocsátás csökkentési
we are on the right
céljaink
track
elérése felé.
to enable the achievement of
intézkedéscsomagokkal a
the very aggressive targets in different areas like agriculture, commercial, and energy sector. We are taking serious actions. We have been taking serious actions, and those have contributed to lower the gas emission by 34% insofar. However, we have to face new challenges, plenty of new challenges, and the current war-like situation has shed some light on us having to accelerate these actions. I will show you 3 slides in terms of our exposure, import exposures, natural gas, crude oil, and electric energy-wise. The first slide is about natural gas. 84% is our import exposure, and this 85% exposure is basically of Russian origin, all of the 85%. Crude oil exposure, also very high, 88% is the import dependency. There are some diversification possibilities though. However, still the dominant player here, more than half of our import is of Russian origin. 56% of oil products come from Russia. Electric energy, electricity import dependency, it's both good and bad. It's good because it justifies the assumption that the European integrated market brings results already. Our interconnectors connect us with all the neighboring countries. We have grid agreements with all the neighboring countries, so we have excellent daily level electricity trade on a daily level again, and Hungary can be supported up to the level of 33% import, so we can lean on the neighboring countries and the whole of the European electric grid when we talk about the total volume of electricity. All these 3 factors, however, has identified new challenges for us. The A war-like environment, the war in the vicinity, has shed some light on a new factor which we tended to forget. The energy trilemma is still there. Trilemma meaning three different objectives, whether or not those can be achieved at the same time. On the one hand, we need to decarbonize. Secondly, we want to provide for safety of energy. And thirdly, this energy should be affordable. This is the trilemma, the triple dilemma. So, earlier, the natural gas was widely abundant and available. The electric grid cooperated well with the vicinity, with the countries in the vicinity. Now, the situation has changed and the national energy sovereignty has become a new action item. New actions are needed. First and foremost, we need to lower our natural gas exposure or gas usage. In terms of the total energy intake of the country is 35%, not counting transformation losses, 43%. So our strategic goal is to lower the 35% as much as possible, and by 2050 we should only use natural gas in Hungary. That is needed for technology and in order to provide for the regulatory abilities of the electric system. There are three strategic goals in terms of energy supply, stable energy supply. First and foremost, as I mentioned, the ratio of natural gas should be lowered in the energy mix. Secondly, energy efficiency and switching for electric energy, that is electrification. The second strategic objective is to widely use the alternative energy sources as much as possible that's available within the country. Therefore, biogas, biomass, waste transformed into energy, and photovoltaic production within Hungary. The green energy generation should be a new item as well, hand in hand with the performance of the nuclear power plants. And thirdly, we need to provide for the supply of increasing electricity and flexibility so that electric energy should be available for each one of the users. There are numerous actions that have been introduced for the third item, and even more actions will be needed in the future. Electric energy, that is electrification, is the very branch of industry that will require cooperation, global cooperation, and besides total grid development and global and Hungarian grid development, the more efficient solutions, new solutions need to come into the forefront as well. We have made our forecast as well as to how we shall achieve our goals. This is a rather wide-ranging plan. There are three objectives: the electric energy allocation plans, natural gas efficiency projects, and renewable energy projects. All in all, we're talking about 16 billion euro worth capital expenditure projects, and this last slide is to give you an example, to give you a sense of different technologies and where and how those should be positioned. These technologies will be made publicly available rather soon, and details will be known as well. So we have created a map, or we have researched all the technological possibilities available to us, which on the long term and mid-term could be available to Hungary. All those were put on the energy map of Hungary as well, translated into the language of CapEx, capital expenditure or investments. And in order to launch these projects, the resources of the European Union Development Fund is being considered. Plans have been finalized, and in terms of the implementation, we'll be looking forward to the contribution of all the technology suppliers involved in digitization, decarbonization, and energy transformation. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Köszönjük szépen, a Földi Borús Márkot hallották, és kérem szépen, hogy maradjon is a színpadon. Please stay with us on the stage. Digital energy transformation is crucial also for small and medium enterprises. A white paper is going to be worked out in Hungary with the support of the Ministry of Technologies and Industry, the Hungarian Battery Association, Huawei Technologies, Planergy Solutions, and other partners. I'd like to ask Ms. Fanni Mészáros, Head of Secretariat of Hungarian Battery Association, and Mr. Marco Szű, Vice President of Huawei C Nordic, and Mr. Marcel Szűcs, CEO of Planergy Solutions, to take the stage and celebrate together this moment with shaking hands and taking a photograph. So please.
So yes, ladies and gentlemen, launching a project on a conference like this is like this. Yes, thank you very much for putting your hands together for our guests, and please shake hands if I
Congratulations.
may ask you. Congratulations. And of course, we would like to take a photograph on the stage. So once again, please, there is our fantastic cameraman or photographer. 3, 2, 1, and action! Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Congratulations. And now, ladies and gentlemen, welcome on the stage Mr. András Lengyel, who is the Director, Head of Energy and Utilities Advisory Practice from PricewaterhouseCoopers, to introduce the work of the white paper a bit more detailed. Thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, my name is András Lengyel. I'm head of Energy and Utilities Advisory Practice at PricewaterhouseCoopers Hungary, and we will be the consultants who will support the before-mentioned white paper creation work in Hungary. Therefore, I would like to introduce a few thoughts on future challenges of the Hungarian power sector, and also a few thoughts on the potential solutions and how Huawei, the before-mentioned association and ministries, and PricewaterhouseCoopers, a selected consultant, will support this white paper creation work. If you don't mind, from this point on, I would like to switch to Hungarian, but my slides will be in English, and it will be easy to follow for everybody. Szóval, amennyiben a magyar villamosenergia rendszer kihívásairól beszélünk,
talking about the challenges of the Hungarian electric system, the main challenge, you can see on the left-hand side, this is a kind of challenge which should be realized. The Hungarian electric energy consumption is growing, and this is due to the fact that in Hungary there are more and more new investments, capital expenditure projects, more and more companies are going global, especially from the automotive industry. Hungary is favored as a new site, a new investment. This, however, results in growing electric energy consumption. Deputy State Secretary has mentioned these challenges, though. Hungary is a serious electric energy importer. The ratio of natural gas powered power plants is rather high, and natural gas has become more expensive due to the Ukrainian war. So the major challenge for Hungary is that the growing demand for electric energy should be provided in a sustainable, stable and affordable manner in the future as well. So, the Hungarian energy strategy that is being updated provides a complex answer to that. As part of that, electric energy would have to be carried out. New power plant, new nuclear power plant is to be established. And last but not least, the solar panel-powered power plants would need to be increased in Hungary. For the time being, 3.5 gigawatt hour is the built-in solar energy, rooftop solar, household level, and also industrial level solar panel parks. So that's what we have. About 5 years ago, it was close to zero. Now it's 3.5 gigawatt hour, and according to the forecasts, by the end of 2024, it will go up to 8 gigawatt hour. This is a large figure, and by the end of 2024, the electric energy generation capacity by 2024 will more than half of that will be supplied by solar panels, and that's good. That's part of the solution because that's a renewable energy resource. This solution, however, raises some problems, generates some problems as well as new challenges. Going into these challenges, we can identify 9 basic items, issues to be resolved by Hungary. As part of that, I will mention again the increasing ratio of solar panel powered solutions, but those are dependent on weather. Their production capacity cannot be forecast properly. Obviously at night there is no sunshine, so that poses some challenges for the electric grid. On the one hand, electric grids were not designed for that purpose. Those would need to be developed so that there would be more and more renewable energy resources that can be input. Secondly, flexible solutions needed for balancing for the system at grid level. Another difficulty, one, there are increasing financial difficulties. The prices are skyrocketing, making the goals mentioned by previous presenters even more difficult to achieve. Hungary would want to provide for affordable energy, relatively low energy prices. This was the previously mentioned trilemma, the triple dilemma, or establishing nuclear power plant. That's ongoing, but establishing such a power plant is always a challenge. It's no different in Hungary either. And new electric consumers will connect up to the network, not only factories, but also electric cars and heat pumps, which all require electric energy. Alkali voltaic systems, the electric energy generators, these are the new engineering innovations which are knocking on our doors. For example, smart networks, smart measurement, smart metering, energy management system, hydrogen economy, and last but not least, the battery energy storage. These are technologies which a couple of years ago we would have named promising technology. It is not that though. This is not a long-term solution anymore. It's short-term and also commercially promising a solution. Hungary not too long ago has introduced a new change in its legislative system, making sure that energy storage will be a must, will be compulsory to be established for each one of the solar energy power plants. This, as well as technological maturation, will contribute to creating more and more such capacities, energy capacities in Hungary. We still have new challenges, though this is a mature technology and a new technology at the same time. The market does not have sufficient knowledge about this technology yet. The market doesn't quite know how and where it can be fit into the system and how it will contribute either at household level or industrial level, how it will contribute to Hungary performing its sustainability and decarbonization goals, or decarbonization and sustainability goals of a given specific factory. For this reason, there will be white papers worked out for each one of these three segments, introducing the new possibilities emerging in these segments in terms of decarbonization and achieving our decarbonization goals and sustainability goals, and also declaring how energy storage can be provided in these sectors. We shall also elaborate on solar energy for the electrification of heating, for digital solutions for electric transportation, as well as subsidy possibilities, and how battery energy storage can be fit into this puzzle, how and where, through which business streams and revenue streams the state will provide support to that. We do not want to find solutions by going into the ivory tower and putting together three white papers. Much rather, the four contributor partners of ours, the partner ministries, and based on consultations of industry players and consumers, we shall learn about their requirements, their future plans, and we will provide the answers expressing the government intentions on that in the white paper. So this is the work that we are embarking on based on the assignment of Huawei, and hopefully by the autumn this will come to an end, and the outcome is meant to be three white papers that will act as guidelines for the three consumer or industrial segments as to how they can make their operation greener and more sustainable. PVC Coopers PVC is more than happy to be able to participate in this work. Thank you very much for your attention. Should you have any questions, I will be available later. Thank you.
Köszönjük Lengyel Andrásnak. Thank you very much for Mr. András Lengyel giving us some insight about this project. Good luck with it. And of course, this event is all about not only discussing very important topics, but networking as well. So if you have any questions, just please contact Mr. András Lengyel later on here on the location. Thank you very much. In the next few minutes, our speaker will speak about the world's largest rooftop photovoltaic PV array built in Turkey. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the board member of the Solar Apex, Ms. Beşime Özderici.
Udvazlok mindenkit. My greetings in Hungarian. I hope you understood. I would like to thank Huawei for their kind invitation. And it's my honor to welcome all of the guests, and I really thank you for joining us in European Innovation Day. I would like to introduce our company that engages in solar energy projects and provides solutions in this field. Solar Apex serves as a solar EPC company, as well as an investor in solar energy projects throughout the world. It delivers turnkey solutions in the solar energy projects by carrying out consulting, installation, operation, maintenance in 3 phases. With 40 engineers and 300 site employees, Solar Apex has a project portfolio exceeding 350 megawatts throughout Turkey. It will expand its operations to Europe, Germany, Poland, Italy, and Spain starting next year. Our vision is to become a global brand as a solar EPC company, as an energy trader, as a large investor in solar energy projects with a multidimensional approach. With 40 engineers and 300 site employees, SolarApex has a project portfolio exceeding 350 megawatts throughout Turkey. It will expand its operations. Sorry, it's the wrong slide. So, to the next slide, I'm having trouble. So these are the solar energy, solar solutions that would deliver, turnkey solutions we have. Utility scale, commercial, industrial, and residential solar energy projects. Our ideology is based on 3 principles, which are resilience, sustainability, and reliability. By adopting these principles, we contribute to the sustainability of the power plants we build. We are honored to pioneer the solar energy sector with one-of-a-kind project, which is the world's largest rooftop solar power plant with 102.5 megawatts of installed power. With 25 manufacturing sites in 3 continents, the investor Tosyalı Holding is a global steel producer. Steel production requires extensive energy use. They have chosen SolarApex as their solution partner towards achieving their sustainability goals. So supply chain management and logistics was the core of the business towards succeeding in this mega project. We have completed this massive project successfully within several months through joint efforts of our dedicated team. 300 site workers took 2 shifts to complete this project on budget and on time, despite the negative effects of the pandemic. Extreme safety measures were taken during the construction to keep our teams safe and healthy. I would like to now talk about some of the challenges we had. There were great challenges we have faced during the construction. First of all, we had a deadline pressure that pushed us beyond our limits to complete a project at such a big scale in a very short period. The first phase, which is 65 megawatts of installed power, was completed in 5.5 months. And the second phase, the remaining 82.5 megawatts of installed power, was completed in 6.5 months. The fact that the region was exposed to strong winds was compelling when it came to the transfer of the PV panels to the rooftop, causing cranes to swing. This could slow down the construction if we had not taken precautions by consulting meteorologists and going hand in hand with their warnings and advices. Being a global iron and steel supplier, a sudden halt in production would cost time and budget. Our teams of engineers analyzed the infrastructure of the factories through extensive researches and prioritized the requests of our investor. The most important priority was that we had to install the solar power plant without intervening in the factory's own production. With this approach, we analyzed the factory in detail, paying attention to their operation hours, and plan our construction in alignment with their operational schedule. There were cranes working inside the factory, and it was also posing potential risks to the stability of the system that comprises of thousands of PV panels on the roof. Also, with the harsh weather conditions that the strong winds cause, exacerbated the condition of the system in terms of safety and durability. To tackle these issues, we implemented a special technique called Perlin technique, which requires us to advanced engineering skills and expertise. And it was applied carefully by mounting a solar racking deep inside the main columns of the structure. That way, we assured that the system would be resilient to any negative conditions. We have broken down the construction in phases. Each time a phase was finished, it started commissioning, so that the payback period reduced even more. During the process of commissioning, the production was never halted. So producing steel means releasing too much heat, which results in reducing the efficiency of the PV panels on the roof. The solar panels were installed in a more elevated position so that the air circulation would help them cool down. Scrap dust was another issue because of the scrap's melting process, which could result in problems in the operation of the solar energy system. Our teams have used semi-autonomous PV cleaning robots to keep them clean, so that there won't be any negative effects regarding efficiency, and they function at their maximum efficiency at all times. This was the first time the PV cleaning robots were used on the roof of a steel factory. The results were satisfying, not only in terms of efficiency, but also we have saved water. According to research we made, the cleaning robots we used helped save approximately 34% more water compared to conventional cleaning methods. So I would like to talk about the numbers. So this is the world's largest rooftop solar power plant project with a total installed power of 142.5 megawatts. And this is the solar power plant project with the world's largest investment with $71 million. And it prevents 160.525 tons of carbon emission per year. And it is one of the world's leading plants in green steel production. So it annually generates 250 million kilowatt per hour electricity. So this is the equivalent of 84,000 households' 1 year energy consumption. And it is the equivalent to annual electricity cost of 37 million. And it meets only 23% of our investor Tosili's energy consumption. And this is the rooftop solar power plant built with the latest technology in the world, with 535-watt Jinko PV panels, Huawei next-generation inverters, and advanced engineering methods. So, transition to green energy is a key element to reducing carbon emissions and creating a sustainable future. We have harnessed technology to build a greener planet and to create a better future for the next generations. With the help of technology, we will work continuously to help save the planet through the solar projects we build and we invest in. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Zderici. Köszönjük szépen. And ladies and gentlemen, in the following, we continue with a specialist. Mr. Tamás Tóth is an energy specialist at Sajó Solar. As far as I know, the language of his presentation will be Hungarian.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the project owners, we thank you for your invitation to this conference to take part and to present our project to you. From now, I will present my presentation on Hungarian, but you will see that all of the slides are English, and you can follow me on English language too. Thank you. Köszönöm szépen.
Of my presentation, from coal to solar. Basically, this project is special because it will introduce a new area to you that is focusing on how to create value in a deserted area. A few words about the company Solar Solar Kft. It's a small Hungarian limited company, largely owned by Hungarians, and we are specialized on electric energy generation. Beremté Sajó-Szentpéter is the corporate site, which is the northern part of Hungary. It's pretty much underdeveloped region. The project is about a 2019 megawatt solar power generator, which would not be special in Hungary either, because we realized that in the past 7 years, Hungary has built more than 3,000 megawatt solar panel powered power plants. Well, narrowing down from the global to the regional level, you can see that this power plant basically is less than 1% of the total solar power plants available in Hungary. In this county, we are talking about a serious volume, because in terms of low or small power plants, it's only 10% of the capacity, and solar power plants wise, it's 20% of the county total volume. So we are rather special, rather large in Borsod-Abaúj-Zeplén county in our region, in our direct region. What makes our project special? Well, basically, this used to be a coal-fueled power plant before. This is what we substituted. This is an area where they gave up power plant level electric energy generation. The power plant, the building was left there. Basically, we're talking about wasteland, waste area. Earlier, they used burning as a process, so hazardous ash was stored in this area. It was covered with soil and left it there. Another important statement, this area earlier used to be a very important industrial area. In the old times, we've had centralized power grids operated in Hungary, and this was the main power plant of the region. Therefore, the network nodes were built here, enabling the power supply to the region. As for the location of the project, that makes it special. That's on the one hand very special, and secondly, this is why we are very thankful for the invitation. The basic idea behind the establishment of the project, we call it added value-based regional planning. How did we come to this idea? Project owners usually, or normally, are both managers and engineers, but the biggest stakeholder is an architect, landscaper, urban landscaper and urban architect, and we also have geography experts, geographers in a team. It was their thought that we should lean on the regional approach. Our major statements are these. On the one hand, the location matters. Location is a value, and whenever it's possible, we should make an area non-used by any commercial entity right now should be transformed into value, a value factor, and let's try to transform this into an environmentally friendly location. All these are mentioned in the usual sustainability trilemma. Also here, there are different aspects. There's the environmental aspect, the economic and social aspects. Basically, a project is not sustainable when it meets one or two, either this or that aspect. A project is only sustainable when we manage to establish or to reach the project goal, when in the cross-section of these aspects we can meet as many targets as possible. I would just highlight a few things to you now in my presentation. On the one hand, this has been a brownfield rust area, totally polluted, and we are establishing renewable energy generation here. That's a value to the environment. Another important factor here is that we are not taking land away from agriculture areas for renewable energy generation, so we are no risk. We don't jeopardize the food processing or raw materials of food processing. This is also operated before as a network node, so from the electric energy utilization point of view, we can provide for added value. We can provide added value to the electric network, the grid. Optimizing these values, we can process over the next planning phase when we establish, when we say clearly and loudly what we are expecting. In our case, this has been a solar panel which has tried to achieve all these goals together. One more thing that I would like to mention here, the grid never forgets. There's been a centralized network with high voltage power cords, substations, transformers. So these nodes are still there. They've been operated for 30, 40, 50 years, so decentralized energy generation only transforms the map. However, the location of these node points is still unchanged, and they will remain there in the coming decades as well. In case these old power plants are abolished, are eliminated, we can build flexible power plants in these locations, and the whole network, whole grid, the region's grid, will function much more flexibly in a much more environmental friendly way, especially when we look at what demand there is for renewable energy. In light of the system integration, let's take a closer look to the project. This has been an old coal-fueled power plant, as I mentioned before. You can see here on the chart that basically used to be 250 megawatts 45 years ago. Back then it was a top cutting-edge power plant, and there's the light or pale green arrow, that's where it was. This is where we built 45 megawatt capacity solar power plant, and there was a substation built as well. I'd like to mention Huawei support here because they supported us with the installation of their inverters. What's the future? What's next? This project will come to an end, come to completion soon. Would like to progress because back in the 90s, when heavy industry collapsed in Hungary, there's been plenty of brownfield areas, rust areas, so to say. Would like to create added value there. Not too far away from Berente, there is Tisza-Palkonya and Tisza-Újváros as another location. There is another coal-fired power plant there, and we would like to transform that into a hybrid power plant. And a hybrid power plant means that it's scalable, it's flexible, based on renewable energy, solar energy, cool energy, and electric energy, and battery-based energy storage would be established here. So this way we will create a flexible and manageable power plant. Thank you very much for the attention.
Tamás Tóth, Sajó Solar. And now, ladies and gentlemen, this presentation brings us to the end of the first part of our conference today. I'm happy to announce a very short coffee break. Our conference will continue at 11 o'clock sharply. So see you soon. Thank you very much for being with us. See you at 11 o'clock. Thank you.
Welcome
Hello,
back,
everyone.
ladies and gentlemen.
Welcome back. Thank you very much for being with us after the coffee break. And we are about to continue our conference, the Huawei Innovation Day 2022.
Yes, we hope you have refreshed and had a chance to have a chat or a small talk.
Yeah, because it's very important. I mean, networking is also very important on this event. So right now, ladies and gentlemen, I kindly ask the member of the European Parliament, the Committee on International Trade, to join us on the stage and make his speech. Please welcome Ernő Schaller-Baros.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ni Men Hao. Smart city. It means smarter urban transport networks, upgraded water supply and waste disposal facilities, and more efficient ways to light and heat buildings. It also means a more interactive and responsive city administration, safer public spaces, and meeting the needs of the population and businesses. Numerous EU policies regulate on these dimensions, such as the smart energy supply, smart transport of the set of smart solutions offered by the digital single market. The Commission's Communication 2030 Digital Compass, the European Way for the Digital Decade, presented the vision for Europe's digital transformation that is to occur by 2030. This platform is based on digital leadership and technological excellence in Europe and abroad, and seeks to empower all EU citizens and businesses to access and use the infrastructures, technologies, and data they need. The strategy emphasizes the importance of secure, resilient, and sustainable digital infrastructures, digital skills, and the need for the digital transformation of businesses. The plan, however, refrains from addressing the need to teach businesses about digital efficiency and the shortcomings that arise from the fact that access to smart solutions is not provided equally to all European communities. Tech and innovation divide in Europe is still present. While certain countries have made significant progress, some regions, even technologically developed member states, lag in terms of the digital investment, capacities, and performance. Weaknesses in tech diffusion, in fact, explain a large part of Europe's sluggish aggregate productivity growth. A substantial share of the EU companies is not implementing any digital technology strategy and hold no plans to invest in their digital transformation. Most of these European companies are concentrated in certain infrastructurally neglected, disadvantaged areas. The Hungarian government recognized the added value of this strategy, but also identified its shortcomings. By 2025, the Hungarian GDP can increase by up to 9 billion euros if it is possible to speed up digitalization, accelerate the introduction of smart technologies in settlements and businesses, and thereby promote the Hungarian economy to be set on a technology-driven path. Exploiting the opportunities offered by the smart environment is also a fundamental condition for the development of enterprises. Ladies and gentlemen, when considering the field of innovation and technologies, we must realize that without the formation of appropriate partnerships and the prioritization of business developments, we will never be able to effectively encounter the challenges we face today. Be it the previous pandemic, or the Russian-Ukrainian conflict and the consequent energy crisis, or even the Europe-wide experienced crisis related to access to raw materials. Domestic market players are active both in the construction and maintenance of the physical infrastructure, but also in the development and operation of the services based on these. In this area, in addition to large international telecommunications and technology companies, local suppliers and development companies are equally important. The field of innovative and emerging technologies primarily requires adequate knowledge capital, so through its partnership relations, Hungary also has a good chance of entering the ever-intensifying global digitalization and artificial intelligence competition. To further enhance the chances of Europe in the field of digital, and regulatory framework is needed in Europe that supports international investments, international trade, and the establishment of partnerships that enable the flow of knowledge, know-how, skills, and tools necessary for smart solutions, and which thereby brings us closer to the realization of a smart Europe. The essence of the Eastern opening policy of Hungary is foreign economic and diversification. While Hungary provides China with an entry point to the European economy, the partnership brings mutual benefits to both parties. Hungary benefits from the partnership with Huawei in terms of innovation, job creation, economic growth, smart ecosystem, and knowledge-based economy. The proactive attitude of the Hungarian government to digital developments and this partnership has brought outstanding results in many sectors in the recent years. Breakout opportunities that exceeded average development expectations, enabling the development and introduction of new applications. The efforts of EU member states to build a smart Europe should be complemented by frameworks provided adequate EU resources. When we think about the future of cohesion policy, we must recognize that cohesion policy should, among other things, strengthen the regions by embedding innovation and smart solutions in all local communities. Addressing weaknesses in the diffusion and adoption of new ideas and technologies and encouraging broad-based innovation should ensure that all regions, all local communities, and all families can reap the benefit of an increasingly knowledge-intensive economy. Ladies and gentlemen, innovation is not a goal, but a means of global prosperity. In Europe, in Hungary, Smart Europe designates smart communities united in diversity. Any Smart Europe program of the future must represent the belief that the key to technological development is innovation deriving from the widest being provided to the narrowest. In this spirit, I would like to thank Huawei for bringing us together, and I wish you a fruitful and progressive exchange of ideas at this Innovation Day event. Thank you so much.
Köszönjük szépen. Thank you so much. And let's continue with Mr. Dexter Thilian. He's lead analyst for technology and telecoms, Economist Intelligence Unit. Yes. So give a warm welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks very much to Huawei for inviting me today. I should have slides working perfect. So my name is Dexter Thilian. I'm the lead analyst for technology and telecoms at the EIU, which is part of the Economist Group, but basically means that I'm not a journalist. So I'm going to focus on smart strategies in the EU, looking specifically at 5G. So let's start with the first map of the day, putting 5G in a global context. So this map shows the availability of 5G networks around the world. Two things to bear in mind. The first is that I've cheated a bit because I put India as active and only going to be launching this week, I'm afraid. And the second is that every country in the EU now has a 5G network. So I've launched 5G services. Portugal was the last one, I believe, in late 2021. So what this means is that in Europe, you have 5G network in every member state. So the first phase has been done. Now it's about developing the demand, developing the uptake in the network, in the countries, because the network is there. So let's see where Europe stands now. In terms of uptake and penetration, it is behind some of its global peers. On the left-hand side, you can see some data from GSMA, which is that Europe had the third largest number of 5G subscribers in 2021, but far behind China and North America, so mostly the US, and it's going to be the same thing in 2025. If we look on an operator level, we see that the top players are usually in South Korea, so KT Telecom, SK Telecom, and GU+, China Mobile, in the US, T-Mobile and Verizon. Europe doesn't do too well. We have Elisa, who I believe is the leader in Europe with 27%, but Finland is a very, very specific market because of unlimited data and because a lot of people are using mobile broadband as a substitute for fixed broadband. If you look at some of the bigger markets, France only had 5% of 5G subscriber in March 2022, Sweden only 7.5% in 2021. But I don't believe it's because customers are not interested in having 5G. I believe it's because the case hasn't been made so far for them to upgrade from 4G to 5G. So this chart shows the penetration of households in terms of 100 megabits per second fixed broadband. The European average is 40%, and we're seeing a lot of countries above that average and a fair amount of penetration there. So we can see that when the demand is there, when the case is made, and we think about fixed broadband, you probably think of streaming, you probably think of gaming, you probably think of working from home. In many cases, all at the same time, therefore you need to have a fairly robust fixed broadband connection with very high speed. So when the case is made, people are going to be paying more. I don't believe we're quite there in terms of 5G. And if you do the same data for 1 gigabit per second, in a country like France, you have almost over a quarter of people on over 1 gigabit per second. So this is one of the reasons as well. The second is coverage. So the European coverage so far is about 66% in terms of 5G coverage in the European Union. But the issue is that 16 of those member states, or 16 out of 28, are below that average, and 15 are below 50%. And if you look at it in a regional basis between Western Europe and Central and Eastern Europe, every country in Central and Eastern Europe is so far below 50%. So it's very, very important for coverage to be developed and to continue to be there for customers to see the case in terms of paying more. If you go with a 5G plan and if you go somewhere and there's no 5G coverage, you're going to wonder, why am I paying more? Why am I using a service if it's not quite there yet? So that's the first thing. The second, which is more about regulators, is the need of the spectrum needing to be auctioned. So this shows spectrum auction in terms of 3 different bands, so 700 megahertz, 3.6 gigahertz, and 26 gigahertz, which is millimeter wave. And as you can see, 26 gigahertz hasn't been auctioned in a lot of the European countries. Because 26 megahertz is usually used for very, very high speed, even though the coverage is not very great, that kind of gives an idea in terms of the cases where we can use 5G at the moment. If you don't have those very high speed, it means that 5G is very similar to 4G, and again, the case hasn't been made in terms of using services. So there's still some work to do in terms of operators, regulators, which we need to look into in terms of coverage, in terms of spectrum, in terms of uptake. We've got the devices, the iPhone is very popular, Samsung as well, Huawei as well, but there needs to be the case made for users to say, okay, I'm going to be switching towards 5G services. Moving on in terms of private networks. So we're seeing quite a few different private networks happening in the world and in Europe. It is worth bearing in mind that so far, 60% of our private networks, which is networks that only a certain amount of devices or certain devices can connect to because they're connected or they're controlled by a certain entity, 60% of those are using 4G right now, and about 20% are using 5G only. The rest is a mix of both. If you're looking at a country, in Europe, Germany is on top. That's obvious for several reasons. The first one is that during the spectrum auction, they decided to reserve a block of spectrum for those use cases, which made it easier. And also it has kind of a strong industrial players there in terms of autonomy, in terms of automotive sector. The big car manufacturers all have 5G networks, 5G private networks in their factories. Chemicals, manufacturing, so we're seeing Germany doing quite well. Finland and France also doing well. A few in Eastern Europe is starting to develop. The thing that I want to mention as well is that there's no direct relationship between high uptake in terms of consumer demand and high uptake in enterprise demand. Germany isn't very good in terms of consumer demand, and if you look at it globally, South Korea, which is one of the best players in terms of consumer demand, not doing very well in terms of 5G private network. I think they've only announced their first private network 2 weeks ago through Samsung. So it's still very, very early days. There's no kind of direct relationship. Ooh, is that working? Yes. So a few examples in terms of what we're seeing in terms of private networks in Europe. a couple in Finland, and a couple of mining examples, because I think mining is a very, very interesting use case, and we've seen it in Europe, but we're also seeing it in a lot of the other countries in the world. So Sandvik and Nico have both developed kind of private 5G networks, and it's very important in terms of mining, because you can imagine you're going underground, you're going into very dangerous terrain. You sometimes don't really want to have a human using services there, so in terms of autonomy, in terms of using 5G services, very, very important to use technology in order to do that. In a couple of examples from here, from Hungary, so obviously the East-West Intermodal Terminal Hungary in this country, done by Huawei, which is again a private 5G network for internal communication and the use of fully autonomous cranes, and also the Foxconn factory in a city called Komaron, which I found the most interesting about that use case is that one of the main reasons they decided to use private 5G network is try to get rid of wires. And you can imagine if you have a factory with a lot of wires, less flexibility, you can't really move machinery as much as you want, you make it mostly wireless, you have far more flexibility to do things and far more communication. So it's very, very important, even if it's kind of a basic use case, getting from wire to wireless, just using wireless, but it's a very important use case for many, many industries and something that 5G can obviously help. I want to finish with something that we do at the EIU, which is our Tech Readiness Index. It's an index which comprises a few different elements, such as internet usage, mobile subscription, e-commerce spending, e-government usage, cybersecurity, patents and R&D spending. Europe is doing quite well, so you can see on the map. There's still a divide between East and West, but even the Western European countries are doing better than many, or Central Eastern European countries are doing better than many other parts of the world. But what are we seeing in terms of what's the difference in score, for instance, between the Czech Republic and Hungary and Poland, is that the Czech Republic has done very, very well in terms of R&D spending and is far closer to its other peers in Europe and in the world compared to maybe Hungary or Poland, which are far lower as a percentage of GDP. Because the region has a strong educational system in most cases, there is a strong manufacturing element as well, but R&D is really, really the difference between the top players and kind of the laggards on a regional level, on a regional context. So there's still some work to be done there. So key takeaways, Europe has completed the first phase. We've launched 5G. That's great. Now it's about the next phase. It's about demand and uptake. Regulators still have an important role to play in terms of spectrum and in terms of condition, in terms of making sure that coverage is there. And 5G is one element of digitalization. Connectivity is a base. No connectivity, you can't do digital transformation, but it's not enough on its own. You need to build everything on top of it. So 5G, very, very important in that first phase, but more technology needs to be developed in parallel for the economy of the region to continue developing. And with that, thank you very much for your time and attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Julian. Thank you for the presentation. I have to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I'm coming from the world of sports, from the world of motorsports. I've spent almost 2 decades in the world of Formula One as a pit lane reporter and as a lead commentator of the Hungarian coverage. And that's why I just love technology and I love innovative thinking. If you have a good idea, you can beat your opponents, your rivals, even on the track. And recently I had this amazing experience. I was commentating a drone World Cup competition. I mean, that was unbelievable. How quick is that and how, passionate are the people who are racing with this kind of drones. And the next few minutes we will talk about the drones because as we all know, our resources are very, very limited. And now we would like to show you one solution in farming. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Chief Operating Officer from Austria, the Drone Tech company. And our guest and next speaker is Mr. Felix Müller.
Hello, everybody. So, first of all, thank you very much for inviting us to this awesome event in this very cool location. We heard about 5G coverage, and in the next few minutes, I hope that I can take you with me and present to you a use case to actually show what we can achieve with 5G in this case, agriculture, which you may know is a very big aspect in our daily lives. I guess there should be a presentation. Otherwise, oh yeah, no? I mean, I could do it with my hands. I just asked a few minutes before if the presentation would be ready, so.
Do we have a presentation? This is my question. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, this is us.
So if you need it, just let me know. I'm solving every kind of problem.
Okay. No problem. So, yeah, in this project, we teamed up with Huawei, and we did a smart farming use case. We teamed up drones with 5G technology from Huawei to monitor the plant's vitality stages. But why listen to me if you can listen to me in the video? Or look at me. Is there a sound on the video? Yeah, well, I just explained it to you. In this project, we were monitoring, of course, as good old Austrians, wine and asparagus, because those are sorts of plants which are, of course, very valuable. So even in Austria, it does make sense to monitor the plant's vitality stages via drone. We used a 5G CPE from Huawei, a high-resolution RGB camera, and a multispectral sensor to collect data for the plant's vitality. Just so you get an understanding what multispectral imagery does, we collect a certain amount of images. At each point, it's red light, green light, blue light, near infrared and red edge. We compare it to the sunlight that hits the plant, and then we produce a so-called NDVI, Normalized Differenced Vegetation Index. So by looking at how much sunlight the plants are given and how much they absorb or how much they reflect and on which color wavelength, we can tell you how that's me. We can tell you how vital the plants are. We cannot tell you if it's depending on the water, on the fertilizer, or on some kind of pest. But we can take a good look at very huge field sets, one at a time. So I'm going just to skip that bit. Why do we need 5G in this case? We produce huge data sets. As it's seen, 10 acres of field produced over 70 gigabytes of data in multispectral analysis alone. And in RGB footage, we even have larger data sets. Also, of course, we need the in-air processing, remote processing, edge processing, that's kind of in the development stage, and the data needs to be transmitted to the customer or to the cloud computing unit or whatever. And of course, in the future, we will have to use multi-drone operations. So, for example, we use one drone to monitor the plant's vitality stage, and at the same time, another drone takes off and displays fertilizer across the field. Challenges that we faced are the coverage. Although in Austria we have a pretty good 5G coverage, it's not designed for drones because it's designed for the user on the ground. But we need the internet in the air. So that's kind of challenging if you are flying 40 meters or higher above ground level. Finding the right time slots, of course, this is an agricultural topic that you should find out when to do what job. And also, asparagus, if you may know it, does not have leaves in a traditional sense. So this is an asparagus plant, and it's got like little green twiggy-like leaves. So we were not sure if we could really produce some good usable data with the asparagus, but it worked out fine. You would see it on the results later. Yes, the opportunities clearly are in Austria. There's the Broadband Austria strategy, which enforces broadband coverage, especially in rural areas. And also the Agenda 2030 from the EU, which should reduce pesticide usage by 50% by 2030. Yeah, the results, as I mentioned, we discovered pretty significant differences in the fields, in different fields that were harvested under different amounts of stress. For example, one field was harvested under normal conditions, and because of the weather, one had to be harvested under foil, which puts the plant under a lot of stress. So this does harm the plants, and you will be able to see it in the multispectral data, although you may not be able to see it with your own eyes. And yeah, beforehand knowledge, this is especially important when it comes to wine or asparagus. Those are plants that are planted and used for 10 or 20 years. So if you discover difficulties in the vitality at the early stage, maybe in the first 2 years where you are not able to harvest asparagus, and you do your actions soon, at an early stage, you are able to profit from that for 10, 15, 20 years. And of course, the quantification, we're talking about huge areas, and you need to have a reliable way to measure those all in the same way. Here you see some results. You see the different wavelengths or different visualizations of the vitality data. You're probably able to spot pretty significant differences in the lower left picture. I think we have another one of that. That's actually the wine. The vitality seems to be pretty good overall. You can see it's a little bit decreasing to the upper right, but in general, the wine in this area was okay. Of course, we can quantify, I have to hurry a little bit, I'm sorry. We can quantify by zones of vitality in these data sets. Okay, that's the same picture again. Yeah, if you reduce the data sets, you will be able to spot areas where you have decreasing vitality pretty easily. This was really astonishing for us because we didn't expect the data with asparagus to be so good, and also for the farmer, which didn't think that the drone usage would produce such good data, but we were happy to prove him wrong. Yeah, so just to give you some numbers, for example, the asparagus field, when it comes to organic farming, of course, you also have to use fertilizer and other things in the organic farming industry. For example, copper. Copper is a biological, organic thing you can use with wine, but of course it's a heavy metal. So copper will stay in the soil. You don't want to use too much copper because it will decrease your field's quality in general. And by only applying your measures where it's really needed, you can reduce the use of copper by 50%. And in conventional farming, you can reduce the use of pesticides by 50%. What this means is 10 to 15% more output. And this means on 1 acre, it's 10 to 15% more. That's 400 kilogram plus. So if we're talking about huge fields, that's a lot of fruit you will be able to harvest, sell, consume to feed people. Yeah, special thanks for the support also at this point for the Austrian Ministry of Agriculture and the Austrian Research Promotion Agency, and of course the farmers, which we were only able to do the project with them. Next steps, and then I'll be finished. We will need 5G, especially for flights beyond visual line of sight. Because as the drone pilot, we always need to be able to intervene with some occasions that could occur during a flight. So we need to have a stable and resilient connection. Real-time processing, of course, we have to be able to transfer those huge data sets, no matter if it's the output or the data that should be processed. And yeah, for Internet of Services, of course, that leads me to our follow-up project, which we will start this year. We will build the first 5G environment purely for drones and have a gigabit network that is purely designed to transfer data for cloud processing of those agriculture data. Automating the services will be a huge part. And the thing is, we want to station a drone system that everybody is able to access. This will reduce the cost for the end customer and also for the provider significantly, and will make drone use cases more applicable for everybody. So thank you for out the time. Keep dreaming, keep innovating, and thank you for your attention. Thanks for having me, and have a great day.
Thank you so much. Dankeschön, Mr. Müller, Herr Müller. We had also some difficulties, some challenges with your PPT, but thank you for your patience. So now I'd like to ask Mr. János Tálosy, head of East-West Gate in Hungary, to take the stage. East-West Gate is a very first private 5G intermodal logistics center in Europe. It was said the presentation of Mr. Tálosy will be in Hungarian, but we will see. If it will be in Hungarian, please use the translation device if you need. So, kérem szépen, Tálosy Pétert fogadják a színpadon. Kérem szépen, tartsa meg az előadást.
I would also like to have my presentation, if possible. Thank you. Yes, that's fine. Thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, first of all, Mr. Müller, thank you very much for introducing my terminal in his presentation. He would have been happy to talk about my terminal as well, I guess. Thank you, Huawei, for the possibility to have talked about, for the opportunity to talk about my vision, my realized dream that has come true, to share a few thoughts about that. This vision of mine, going back to 2 years ago, when we decided that we would build a terminal, a railway terminal, which is one of its kind. First time in the world, it will try to combine all the thoughts, all the concepts, and advanced innovations that could lead to more livable future, a greener planet. I will apologize to you because, if you know me, you might be accustomed to this, but PowerPoint is available. I will depart from the written speech, so I will do that here as well. I will not follow the presentation. The eastern and western borders, railway capacity is saturated. New technological developments were needed. This is how we come to the idea of establishing an innovative terminal which can switch between normal and wide gauge. So we are at the location of the switchover from normal to wide gauge normal, and the terminal should be capable of finding a solution for all the technical challenges that might be out there in the world. The total area of the terminal is 140 hectares, and 85 hectares has been built in already. It's operating 10 kilometers railway track, 5-kilometer normal, 5-kilometer wide gauge loading track lines were built in a terminal. We have 3 cranes moving on track lines, 1 RTG rubber tire-based crane, and any other innovation that you might imagine. These cranes work in an automated manner without wires. The terminal is capable of storing and loading any chemicals, be it gases or hazardous materials. The theoretical capacity of that is 1 million TEU. Just to give you an idea, put you in perspective how large it is. Currently, the terminal in Poland has a capacity of 600 TEU. So this terminal by itself is more than the total of the Polish capacity, or the Polish border-based terminal's capacity. Obviously, this will require further infrastructure development in the future. Renewable energy. This has been the base for the future of our terminal. Heating, cooling, we use heat pumps for that, we use electric devices. We have power plant, solar park being established, and in the future we would also like to, based on the Huawei cooperation, to establish an accu pack, battery pack, that we can use for storing our generated energy. The terminal is totally private investment. Cost without real estate is more than 80 million euros, 82 million euro, and we use Hungarian innovations like Maxware 5.0, developed by the Győr University. They are capable of providing 3D virtual real-time space imaging, creating excellent area for terminal operators, monitoring and managing the terminal. The construction itself, not only in the Hungarian aspect but also the European aspect, has been extremely fast, because from the first thought onwards, when decision was made about the investment with the investors to build the terminal, all it took was 2 years. Within 2 years the terminal has been completed. The implementation itself took 14 months. We used Hungarian implementation companies, Hungarian contributors, majority we used local resources. This is how we established our terminal. What has been the cornerstone of the terminal? I wanted to have a terminal built at the pretty much summit of my professional career, whereby the human factor is limited as much as possible, limited to management and development only, and any other human resource related problems are eliminated that might otherwise come up in case of such a terminal. This is how we started to talk about trying to build a 5G private network, which, by the way, not only has been a pioneering effort in Hungary or in Europe, but also around the world. There's only a few such locations. In the majority, it was Chinese harbor ports that established such industrial 5G networks. The total of our communication is digitized. The terminal is so much developed with the optical system. Altogether, we have built in 60-kilometer length of fiber cable, optical cable. We have modern AI, intelligence-driven cameras, camera park rather, and I believe whatever is available and possible in Hungary today, everything has been established there. The railway security devices are digitized as well. In Hungary, we use a system that has been applied here. Diesel-generated devices were modernized as well. Obviously, we were in a difficult situation. You, as market player, you are more knowledgeable than the market players, even more than myself. Buying an electric device today is close to impossible. So certain compromises were needed in order for the terminal to get started. Currently, we still use diesel-driven, diesel-powered, diesel and electric devices, but in the future, those will be totally replaced, phased out and replaced whenever these suppliers will be in a position to manufacture electric-driven devices meeting our specifications. We have the Seveso permits, which means even the most hazardous materials we are capable and permitted to manage. Therefore, the cranes have the ATEX and RDR attestations. These are the highest level of attestations. This enables us to manage both chemical goods, gases, and explosive materials to be loaded, offloaded, and reloaded. The idea of a green project, obviously, was also based on operational tasks. I reward myself every morning for the idea of basing the terminal's heating and cooling on ground soil heat pumps. Otherwise, I may have resigned already and may have handed over the baton to another colleague because based on the current energy prices, I don't imagine the terminal could be feasible any other way. The costs of the terminal would have increased extremely. To the majority of the cases, we have electric systems, and all our capacity need is based on that. We are truly happy that the wind power plant installation has become possible, will become possible, and the legal conditions will provide for that, will allow such power plants. We also are thinking about solar power plant building, and in cooperation with Huawei, it is our intention to create energy storage facilities that can provide mid-term voltage as well, because our cranes are using mid-term voltage. And last but not least, a very important thing that I would like to talk about, that is security, safety, and protection. We have our own server park, I believe one of the most sophisticated and the largest privately owned server park with multiple layers of safety systems built in. We have such firewall system that almost eliminates any possibility for external interference or intervention. We have optical connection with the Budapest, between the Budapest and Fényes-Littke terminal. High-capacity optical networks have been built, and in addition to that, no third party is involved, so this information goes through our internal network, closely surveyed. And most importantly, this is why we are here, I believe. Today's program is contributed to by Huawei and 5G. I'm a chemist, by the way, by profession, so I believe I'm a truly well-versed expert because I've seen many things on TV. When we started this, we started to analyze the partners, potential partners who can provide the data transmission speed and the latency. The young man, the operator sitting there 2.5 kilometers away from the crane and using a joystick real time, he can efficiently operate the crane. So who can provide the technology? This is how we have gotten to Huawei, because Huawei could produce the conditions that were inevitable for us in a non-compromised manner, almost 100% availability, and latency-wise, such a low value that has been unparalleled and unseen. It's difficult even to determine that for the whole network. Not only do we have our cranes operated with this private 5G network, but all the other devices, including the terminal tractors, the internal communication, the management operation of our machines, the trolleys, and also including the internal communication of our colleagues. This again is a closed network. There is no possibility for any third-party, external party to access it, and both the network builder and Vodafone providing for the frequency, none of them have access to our data, to our devices operated by us. They have no access to either of them. As for the vision, I've talked about the vision, and again, I would like to thank for the successful and highly efficient cooperation during this highly intense construction period with Huawei. I would like to thank for their colleagues for the cooperation. A special thanks to Director Tamás Bodai for the highly efficient support that he has been continuously provided to us during the implementation of the CAPEX project, because obviously we have had no such knowledge. We didn't have the necessary knowledge, but by now my colleagues, our young engineers, are well versed about our system operation. They are highly experienced, and therefore the prospects are bright. All the advantages of the private 5G network, efficiency, human safety, because the operator is not sitting on a crane, on top of the crane. Therefore, we need less resources, but we can achieve higher intensity, higher efficiency. So I believe the industrial use case is the future for private 5G, and 5G is a token of that. Thank you very much for the attention.
Tálosi Jánosnak nagyon szépen köszönjük, hogy mindezt elmondta. Thank you very much for Mr. János Tálosi. I mean, 5G and low latency or even no latency networks are so important for the next few years, in the next few years when we are talking about this kind of technologies. And today we would like to show you some good practices and use cases on this stage. Because of the climate change, there are huge forest fires all around the world, and especially the Mediterranean. And one of the biggest victims is Greece. Our next speaker is the co-founder and CEO of Probotech, who introduces a recently started fire prevention project which works using the 5G network and works together with the artificial intelligence. Ladies and gentlemen, please direct your attention to the big screen because our next speaker is George de la Portas.
Dear all, have a good day. My name is George de la Portas and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Probotech. Probotech is an IT company with focus on innovative solutions. Probotech builds software for robotic drones, AI, and does systems integration. Our vision is to secure a better future by utilizing technology and smart services. I'm humbled to be presenting here in front of all of you today. I'm also honored and I speak for the whole Probotech team. Sadly, it was not possible for me to be there in person, but I believe we will have the opportunity to do so in several new events in the near future. Today, I want to present you PyroSense, an integrated solution for monitoring and fire prevention. PyroSense assists in a much more complete way all stakeholders who are in charge of securing the woods against wildfires. This solution is supported by Huawei and has been assisted by NovaWind as a network provider on the 5G connectivity level. The place where all the work took place is called Sigru Forest, a small forest located in Athens, Greece. We set up around 230 sensors for measuring CO2 concentration, humidity, and temperature, all placed very carefully in strategic positions. Also, we used our robotic drones to inspect the area over the air with optical and thermal cameras. A supervisor, who is also a drone pilot, is behind the screens at all times. To be able to incorporate and integrate various systems in a seamless way, Probotech introduced a platform that we call the Common Operational Platform, or COP for short. The COP lets us run everything in one screen and enables intercommunication among services and hardware devices or third-party solutions. The name of this platform is Firewatch. Here you can see one of the apps running inside Firewatch. This window shows a real-time view of the sensors, their locations and measurements. In case of an alert, we get audible and visual feedback so that the supervisor can act accordingly. Here you can see another app running inside Firewatch. This window shows a real-time weather reporting facility and an air quality meter. Again, in case of an alert, the same process applies. When the drone flies either by itself, we call this the robotic flight, triggered by an event, or by the supervisor, we use the Mission Control Center, or the MCC for short. The MCC is a fully featured enterprise-ready application for local, remote, manual, and automated flights. This is a view of the supervision and control room, which incorporates firewalls and the MCC. This is our drone charging and landing base, where the drone takes off or lands and automatically charges. These are the two kinds of sensors we use all around the Sigru forest. This is Probotec's founding members, with the Deputy Minister of Development and Investment, Mr. Christos Dimas, in the center. This is a video which showcases how the platform operates, and I will play this now for you. I want to thank you all for this opportunity to present our solution for smarter and more secure environment management. Best regards from Greece.
Mr. De La Portas, who was with us online. And we enjoyed very much the presentations, the forward-looking thoughts, what we have heard in the morning. And before lunch, let's discuss these topics, our main topics, at a panel discussion: technology for energy transition and smart Europe.
Yeah, and I kindly ask to join us on the stage. Here are previous speakers, keynote speakers, among others. So Felix Müller, DroneTech's CEO, thank you very much for coming up on the stage. And then Arvea Marieni, Strategy Advisor, European Commission with the UNFCCC. Then I kindly ask Jesus Contreras to join us, the EIT Digital Spain Node Director. And the host of the coming panel discussion will be the Solution Director of Huawei Technologies, Hungary, the Digital Power, Mr. Robert Szabó. Please welcome them on stage.
So we have heard about some plans from the government, also some speech from the Foreign Ministry. And I think it's important to discuss the matter of energy transition and also digitalization. Just to give you an overall, an overview about Huawei's approach regarding these technologies and these future. Huawei also seen the opportunity in this regard, and this is why recently, last year, Digital Power has been created as one of the department within Huawei, which focuses on energy transition and also involving digitalization. Because in the past, usually digitalization was not part of the, let's say, energy production or usage. But now, because we are into the miniatures world, we have chipsets all over the world. We have chipsets in our solar inverters. So digitalization is very, very important and critical. So I would like to ask Ms. Mariani to have a short introduction about herself, because she could not have the chance to introduce during the speech, and also Mr. Contreras afterwards, just to very briefly brief us about the organization.
My name is Mariani, Arvea Mariani. I'm a partner and board member in a consulting company in Italy, and the technical director of the Regenerative Society Foundation, which is co-chaired by the US economists Jeffrey Sachs and Andrea Illy, the entrepreneur behind the Illy Cafe Group. The foundation is focusing on transforming the core business of companies, and it's been established a couple of years ago by 14 major groups in Italy. And regeneration and regenerative practices are we consider them the only direct way to address fundamentally the twin crises of climate and ecology. I'm also serving as an expert for the European Commission, and I've started working with the UNFCCC on a consulting assignment.
Thank you very much for the introduction, and Mr. Contreras, if you could please.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I'm coming from Spain, from sunny Madrid. And I'm part of EIT Digital. EIT Digital is an ecosystem organization with about 300 members in Europe. And we are part of European Institute of Innovation and Technology. And we have only one mission, is to ensure that Europe has digital sovereignty, that Europe is sustainable in the digital area, and we have leading companies in this sector. So our target is to create ventures, deep tech digital ventures, either for energy, either for health, either for any sector. And we will discuss afterwards, you will see that digital is really strategic sector for Europe. So thank you.
So my question for you will be, for all of you, so how can renewable energy help Europe, and also digitalization help Europe in the terms of the energy independence? So how can we achieve that? How these technologies can sustain this or accelerate this? What is your opinion about this?
Okay, we have heard today that Europe is starting addressing the triple dilemma, as it was correctly called, of energy security, achieving the climate and environmental objectives that we have, and the stability, social stability of societies. Well, the answer to all these questions is actually scaling up very fast and fast-track the energy transition. Europe is an importer of fossil fuels, of energy. And we see now very, very bluntly, very violently what it means for us. And we also have ambitious goals which are not environmental goals for the sake of being nice to the environment, but because they are an existential threat. Climate and the ecological transition has the threat that has affected global regions this year, as demonstrated, have become an element that is a threat multiplier in terms of how we're going to produce our food, how we're going to secure our water resources. I mean, nowadays, it is demonstrated that forever chemicals have made rainwater globally undrinkable. The glaciers in the third pole, the Himalaya in Hindu Kush, are melting, and on that area, 1 billion people depend, their livelihoods. 30% of our country is underwater, Europe 700,000 hectares of fires. Water scarcity has damaged energy capability production in Europe, both in the nuclear sector in France. Yes, there was maintenance, but the reality is that since 2018, cooling systems are not secured. Italy, the country where I come from, 19% of our energy, renewable production, is dependent on hydro. Hydro has gone down around 40% due to the very severe drought. Drought has increased 29% globally in the last 10 years, also because of deforestation, water cycles. So all these things, I'm not going to go on. We see it here. This is affecting economies. This is affecting the river flow carrier capabilities of the major rivers in Europe. We do have an issue. Renewable energy is a solution. Okay, we know the story. We also know that we're hitting targets. No, we're late in Europe as well. I'm thinking of, for instance, going from the current 16% of presence of wind capacity to the 25%, which is 26%, which is needed in 2030. Late. All European countries. Late with interconnections, energy interconnects. Late with infrastructure. Late with the redesign and upheaval of the market regulations. Because we cannot deal with a post-fossil economy with the rules that have dominated the fossil industry. Energy communities, for instance, great idea. Italy, late. Late for what? Taking up the implementation regulation which is needed for the new non-hierarchical distributed energy system. And another thing, and I will close it because otherwise it's going to be very long. Europe has, 2018, consumption of electricity was 28,000 terawatts, hour. This is only, the complete energy consumption of Europe, as we know, is about 4 times more. How do we produce the energy that we need, if not in Europe? And we need to do that. We need to scale up renewables here. We need to go for, as much as possible, low carbon sources everywhere. I do, for instance, consider not very clever from the perspective of climate that Germany is shutting down currently now the existing plants. I'm not talking about building new ones, but it doesn't seem very clever to do that now. So we have got a very easy solution. It's not easy at all, but we got the technology, ultra-high voltage transmission lines, high voltage direct connection for the European Interconnects, CEF, Connecting Europe facility, and we got the current exporters of oil, the North, the MENA region, that can become exporters of clean energy. And this is already happening, and very sad to say that, but the integration of high energy prices, also due to the accelerated impact of this energy crisis determined by the war, is accelerating the economics of the energy transition. X-Links, not making ads for anyone, but they are going to produce 10 gigawatt from Morocco, concentrated solar power and photovoltaic plant, wind, to take it with cables for underwater cables. Technology we have. Italy is a producer. I'm not going to name the companies. Ultra-high voltage direct lines are developed by Siemens and German companies. So this is technology we own. We are on the winning side. This 10 gigawatt will be transferred to the electricity grid of the UK. We have interconnects with Africa. We need to build more. This is an easy way, This is a workable way to accelerate the construction that we need. And it doesn't mean that we didn't need to become dependent on them, because here today, the presentations on solar photovoltaic that is capable of increasing our independency are a powerful demonstration that we can increase our self-reliance at cheaper cost for our consumers, as is demonstrated also by the price in electricity that we have seen dynamics in the Nordics. With Sweden, for instance, where there is a very much more developed, or Spain, and we need to decouple from the gas prices. That's another thing, the merit order, dead.
Thank you very much. If any one of you have some comments or on this topic, please, the stage is yours.
Well, not much to add to this. Very overall. In fact, I'm a little bit scared now. No, I think that's the right take to use our technological advantage to find solutions, to use our resources in a more sustainable way that makes sense. It's easy, it's fast, without endangering people. Also, with drone usage, we can do a lot of things that tend to are very energy or personnel consuming, and yeah, we will see more drones in the air in the future. They will be a constant companion and will be performing many, many tasks. And yeah, that's also a field, I think, where Europe is leading when it comes to communication technology and such.
Yeah, I think it's very comprehensive.
So speaking about smartness and smart things, in order to build an innovative Europe, we hear about the smart homes, smart farming, smart cities. So what is your take? What can we do as a person or as a company to make it happen or make it even smarter from your point of view? Mr. Müller, maybe you can add some comments on this, because you didn't have too much time on your speech, so now the stage is yours.
Yeah, what can we do? I guess we are exactly the things that we are doing, but more efficient, faster. I think that the use case we presented, the smart farming, the monitoring of plants, will be a huge impact in general, because as my colleague mentioned, we are able to save a lot of water resources. We will be able to perform agriculture in a more future-faced way. We will be more sustainable. We will eat healthier food, and we will, at the same time, we will be able to produce more of it with less effort. And also, of course, when it comes to PV power plants, we're talking about tripling, I think, the amount of PV panels in Austria, at least. I think that goes for all of Europe. And of course, we have to maintain them. We have to inspect them. And that's at least my take from the drone perspective. Inspecting and keeping them running in the most efficient way that we are able to will be a huge part of that. Also, of course, water plants, power lines in general. We'll need a lot of those. And yeah, I think we are on a pretty good path. We tend to get distracted and not really feeling the empowerment. We don't have this European, we are the world leaders mentality that, for instance, the United States have. But I think we could have, because technology-wise, Europe is a big player still.
It is. So Europe, as in general, is a big player, and also the startups are also important. Digitalizations are very, very important, as the EIT Digital aims to strengthen Europe in terms of the digital world. So what are the weaknesses and strengths of Europe in this digital ecosystem, and for the startups specifically, compared to the rest of the world?
Yeah, Europe is different in many ways, but I think the main weakness we see for startup is that Europe is so heterogeneous in countries. So we have 27, 28 countries here. And if you compare figures with Asia, with North America, you see that technology-wise, we are very good. We do produce very good research. It's of a good quality. Startup-wise, we are quite good. We are setting up a good amount of startups. They are deep tech, so it's okay. The problem we have is with the market size. So if you set up a company in Portugal and you want to go to open an office in Finland, it may take 1 year, €500,000, a lot of legal struggles, a lot of cultural struggles, and it takes time. It's not the case, for instance, the US. You set up a company in Silicon Valley, the very next week you can be selling anything in Illinois, in Chicago. So that's one of the things we have. We have problems with size of the companies. The companies grow to a certain amount of size of a market and they stop. And that's the mission of EIT Digital. We help this company to grow within Europe, to become big company, 100 or 1,000 of million of turnover. And that would be the main weakness of Europe, heterogeneity. And the main strong point is maybe heterogeneity. So it's the same. So if we manage to deal with this diversity, we can be much stronger than anyone in this sense, because we do have a lot of talent, different talent, and a lot of different cultures just mixed in one startup. That is not the case in other parts of the world.
But we are improving, I hope.
Yeah, we are working on that. Work in progress.
So how could the digital technologies help us to fight climate change?
I think it's a double issue. There is a potential for digital technologies. It is assessed at around 50% efficiency in industrial sectors. And I do believe that industry cases are the main focus. The problem is that that comes with a high risk of unaccounted for GHG emissions and resource consumption increase, which could take us with this tsunami of data to having 20% of energy consumption globally by 2050 consumed by the digital sector and 14% of emissions. And that is something we cannot afford. Now, economists start realizing that climate change is a design fault, is the consequence of a design fault. We need, and this is the role of regulators. Regulators need today to design the system, and 5G is an issue. 5G is an issue, and I would like to say it's a question of business models more than anything else. I would like to, can I ask him a question if it is? We probably need to think in terms of how to, especially in the telecom, it's like this data pump is like increasing consumption, to regulate the consumption of a useless data. And I'm thinking about innovations such as compressed sensing, for instance, in the spectrum versus frequency reduction of, it's like can contribute to energy reduction. But companies do not invest because they want to sell more data. You know what I mean? What is your point?
Yeah, the data is like the oil right now. So the companies are looking for good data, and my impression they will end up using the good data only. So they will not waste the energy on bad data, definitely. Yeah. Yes, we can only hope.
Well, we can regulate, maybe.
So yeah, data is important. We can say that. We can agree on that.
Might I add something?
Sure, of course.
Because I think one point is what can digitalization do for fighting climate change or something, saving resources. It's like you compare it to your company. My boss, although he's a very loving man, he hates papers. So he says, don't use the paper, use the computer. So by digitalizing the office, you save a lot of resources because you don't print out everything. You don't have to drive to every call. You can do it by a video conference. You can maybe monitor or steer things from afar. So I think it's not something that you can put your finger on and say, there, we saved some resources, we I don't know, saved the climate. But in general, by doing a lot of things way more efficient and by not being necessarily on-site, we do save a lot of resources, and that's something that can be added to that equation, I think.
Yes, I totally agree. So using efficient, let's say, your mobile charger is becoming higher efficiency. Everything's becoming higher efficiency, so we should also be higher efficient in terms of the digitalization. So I agree on that.
Efficiency is one thing, and it's a short term. So using digital technology, we can make more efficient the use of data, use of distribution of energy. We are becoming energy producer, any of us right now. But I think the main change will come with digital technology, midterm, with things like metaverse. So the next meeting like this, we can do it online, definitely. And the energy consumption has nothing to do with what we are consuming right now. So I think.
And these data needs to be stored somewhere. So within Huawei, we also face these challenges regarding the virtual or augmented reality. So it will come. So 5G is boosting in all the countries, just like also for the drones in Austria. So data, we need data. We need to store this data, and we need to, let's say, run this system efficiently. So I agree on this part. And speaking about data, specifically myself is from the energy industry, from this area, but some guests might not be familiar what can a drone serve in the PV plants, so in the photovoltaic plants. In Austria, there are, as Mr. Müller mentioned, the numbers will be tripled, the figures will be tripled in Austria in terms of the installed PV, specifically on rooftops. So as far as I know, in Austria, not many, let's say, land is used for PV, but mostly the rooftops of, let's say, industry parks or houses. So how can a drone help operating these power plants? What can a drone company do with these photovoltaic power plants?
No, I think it starts even earlier, because to install a PV plant on a rooftop, you have to measure the rooftop. So that's something we're doing on a very broad scale in Austria already. Last year, I think or 2 years ago, I think we measured 10,000 rooftops in our home city in Linz alone. So that's something that can be done by drone very easily, very fast, and without endangering somebody who has to go up and take the measurements, because we can take them very precisely. When the PV plant is installed, we are checking for functional damages, and we do that by a thermographic sensor. So what's it called in English? Yeah, a warmth camera.
Infrared camera, you mean?
Yes, an infrared camera. Yeah, sometimes in Austria we have a lot of problem with hail. So sometimes you have damages that are visible by plain sight, but are not necessarily a functional damage. So, and the other way around. Sometimes you don't see something with your own eyes, and then by taking the infrared camera, you will see that certain spots are getting heated. Because if some part of the PV panel is damaged, then of course you lose the electricity that's produced there. But everything that runs behind this spot is not going any further. So all the energy that is produced behind it goes to the damaged part, and it gets warmer. So that's a very good way of detecting if something is really damaged, because if it's not warm, it's running fine, and if it's warm, there's something wrong for sure. And yeah, if you're going to transport the energy that is produced to somewhere else, you will have power lines, and I think that's a pretty huge impact too, because at least in Austria or in Europe, power companies already see the advantages of drone technology there, because you are able to inspect huge amounts of power lines every day, like hundreds of kilometers with one system if you want. And that's something that's done by helicopter now. That's coming from another country half of the time. Or if you're talking pipelines, they need to be inspected every month by foot. So that's something we can do automated.
And how are these data checked? So by one person sits in front of the computer, or you have some automatic system doing it instead of you? So how can we imagine the so-called, let's say, checking and double checking whether there's any problem?
Yes, one person checks all the data. No, of course not. Of course, we rely on AI hugely. And there are some use cases that are like blank examples on how to train your AI that are very easy. I think PV inspection is something like that, and we are hopefully proving that in our future project, that we can really produce a good solution for AI PV inspection. Other use cases tend to be way more difficult. So not like in the energy sector, but if you're talking the farming sector, of course, try to teach an AI which green exactly is the green you want.
So AI, I suppose machine learning will also come to the picture. How hot are these topics for EIT Digital? So you mentioned augmented reality, and so this will be the future. But what are the true hot topics? Are they really on the frontier of EIT Digital?
Absolutely, AI is the star together with cybersecurity, maybe. But and quantum computing, maybe it's waiting its turn. But AI, machine learning, big data, all these topics are at the heart, because you heard my colleagues, there are a lot of data right now. We need to see which one are useful, which one are not. And using these data in the proper way can boost your efficiency and can even change some sectors. So AI is the star right now, definitely.
Are there other topics which is next to AI, which is very, very critical or hasn't been mentioned, let's say, on these conferences, but you see already that based on the requests coming from the startups, for example, they seek or they want to develop something new?
The startups are very creative. So we see two kinds of startups. We see deep tech startups, and you see people sending satellites to the orbit. So it's absolutely things that you wouldn't even imagine they are doing, or using quantum computing, that it's a hype right now. But I think it's still far from the market. So we will see in the near future, we will see companies with AI mainly and cybersecurity boosting the market very, very hard.
I see. I would like to address, as we are running short on time, my last question to all of you. So, what are those areas, or which are these areas where the greatest improvement can be expected in the future, which is related to green energy and digital technologies? We heard some points. Just to recap, what is in your mind? Please say some few words about this for the future.
I will say something short about collaboration between all actors and countries, because we need it. And I'm thinking of examples. We were speaking about scale. China has the potential to scale up solutions that we need. I'm thinking of photovoltaic. The price decreased 89% in 10 years. That's also because of China. And one thing, talking about what you were mentioning and the potential, digital twinning, the solutions at scale that are being implemented right now in cities like Shenzhen, and that are also objectives of our policies for 2027, like sector integration, sector coupling. This is also very, very interesting.
Gentlemen, your point regarding where can be the greatest improvement expected in terms of this digitalization?
Well, you know, my take is more like the tool take. I'm the data collector as far as it goes for me. But I think, yeah, collaboration is important. From my perspective, we will produce a solution where we station drone systems that can be used for multiple jobs. So, for instance, you have a PV plant on your rooftop at home. You can go like to the browser tool, like an online shopping tool, and you say, okay, I want to have it inspected, and it's automatically planned and performed. The same goes for the farmer who wants to check his field. The same goes for the energy company maybe that wants to check their power lines. So I think by making this technology in some central sense accessible for everybody, of course in different layers, because a big company maybe doesn't want to have their data for their compound shared with the public. But of course 5G slicing is a good solution for that, I think. by making it accessible for everybody, you can collect a lot of data, and you can at the same time, let's say you're checking something on your rooftop, but at the same time you can check very, very fine layered weather data, or pollen, or I don't know, for something for allergics, or you can measure pollution. We can collect a lot of data when performing one job, collecting data for 15 other jobs. And so by this, we will contribute to making a lot of processes way more efficient than what you're actually looking at. So, and of course that's for the drone industry, but that can be said for a lot of industries. We will have to rethink our way of doing something. And yeah, when China has the capability to accelerate the PV market, Europe has the capability to really be the head of the whole thing, if you know what I mean. We are technology developers, we've always been, that is our turf. And we don't need to stop giving it away, but sharing it in a more sensible way.
And I mean, in an ecological society economy, you will have to repatriate supply chains because this is carbon proofing things. So this is part of our competence here, how we better source resources, urban mining, recycling. This is part of the Green Deal.
Yes, Mr. Contreras, if you have some comments on this.
I would have appreciated intelligent drones this morning, but I was driving from Vienna to Budapest and I got this horrible traffic jam in Budapest. But I think that the whole energy sector is changing completely. So we are going from a couple of companies producing energy to any of us producing energy. And to do that efficiently and to do that properly, you need digital technology, definitely. It's the same case as transportation. So everybody has a car, we need to communicate. So that would be the nearest revolution we will see in energy, definitely. And in the long term, I think our technology will allow for telepresence. You will not need to travel. You will do everything from your country house. Green country house. So that would be the second stage of our evolution.
So digitalization is important in everyday life, in the energy transition, of course, and to reach our climate goals. So thank you very much for your comments and your views on the topic. And please enjoy the lunch. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. And yes, it's time for refresh ourselves. But before we start our lunch, please let me promote for you an event in Austria next week. So on the 4th of October, there will be an event in Linz, the city of Linz, Austria, where you can have some more information and more detailed information about these drone solutions in farming. So once again, 4th of October, there are a few spots available. Please contact our colleagues at the Huawei, maybe in the lunch break. So thank you very much for your discussion. And please, if you didn't do it so far, visit our 5G truck. So it's there just at the entrance, and enjoy the lunch, and see you at 1400. So 2:00 p.m. we will continue our event, the Innovation Day, Huawei Innovation Day. Enjoy the lunch. See you at 2:00. Thank you very much.